Hey guys, Roku here to talk about the insane new Darius buff that was just announced on Twitter yesterday by Riot. For the past couple of patches, they've just gone like crazy with the buffs and the nerfs, and I really do mean it because in the patches 11.18 and 11.19, a total of 53 champions were either buffed, nerfed, or adjusted. Now, my issue with this wasn't that like they're changing so many champions, because it is Worlds patch and we know how Riot likes to do things in Worlds patches. What I was annoyed about was that they basically took out Strybreaker Dash, which broke our kneecaps, and they just left us in the dirt. Like, I know they buffed up passive and reverted the E nerfs or whatever, but that was just not enough, man. Like, it was just not enough. This change is enough. Like, it's a really good buff. So let's just get right into it. In the patch 11.20, which is scheduled to go live on the 6th of October, Darius will be receiving a huge buff. The cooldown of his W, Crippling Strike, is going to go from 7 seconds to 5 seconds based on how many points you have in it, to just 5 seconds at all ranks. You heard that right. W has a 5-second cooldown at every single rank, even if you just put 1 point into it. We get this like in addition to an Irelia nerf in the same patch, so it looks like Christmas is coming home early, boys. It's been a long time since Darius was able to just like 1v1 a lot of top laners. Like recently, everyone's stronger, everyone's faster, everyone does more damage, everyone takes ignite. But with this buff, we stand a chance at like beating some of these annoying champions because, you know, before you fight them and they kill you before you can even get your 5 stacks up, right? Now we get 2 W's off, guaranteed every single all-in, which is more damage and more slows, so we can walk in front of them and get more auto attacks off. So, yeah, this is where the fun begins. Now, I thought that this was just like a buff to level 1 Darius, like in the first few minutes that I just saw it. But the more I thought about it, the more powerful it just was. The only circumstance I could think of where this wasn't a direct buff was in team fights that are like super fast, or when you're fighting against range matchups or whatever, who you can't even get in the range of anyway. And even in some of those cases, it's pretty good, because you get, like, once you get on top of them, you get more slows to work with. But yeah, like, aside from those 2 cases, he is basically more powerful against every single melee matchup. Like, he's just stronger against all of them. Because, like, a lot of these matchups required a lot of kiting, right? You have to kite Riven. You have to kite, as crazy as it sounds, right? You have to just kite a lot of these champions. And thanks to the slows of W's, you can do that even better now, because the slows are 99%, and 2 W's is like 99% slow for 2 seconds, which is just like a lot of time for you to land more Qs, for you to kite more, survive more, and then just maybe get them to 4 stacks, back off, and then flash Q, kill them, and their jungler, right? So it's like, it's way more for us to work with, which is really good versus some of the better Darius players who know how to make use of, like, you know, all the kiting stuff. So if you want to exploit this change as much as possible, get better at kiting, right? So like, what I see is that this change, though it won't like auto win these matchups, it'll at least give us more of a chance of beating these matchups with just, like, you know, like Riven with Ignite, or Set with Ignite, or Fiora with Ignite, or Jax with Ignite. At this point, I don't think it's the champions, it's just Ignite, but like anything with Ignite, you know? Maybe we just don't instantly lose to anything with Ignite, huh? As another bonus strength for my high elo viewers, in that in high elo, people dodge our Qs all the time, right? But because we have more Ws to work with, we can set up our Qs better. So yeah, we get an extra, not an extra slope, but like our second slope coming in sooner to set up another Q, which is good for us. And for you lower ranked Darius players, this is going to be perfect, because you guys are just pressing all your buttons anyway, and you guys are going to be chopping up all these low elo top laners, abusing these champions. Just chop them up. Everyone's going to be happy with this. So overall, I'd say this change is pretty dang amazing, and it might play out differently than we expected, though. It might be less useful, less often. I did play a few games on PvE, but we'll have to see, because when it comes to live, it'll definitely be a big upgrade to his 1v1 potential, his side laning, and also like in longer, more drawn-out team fights too. Not the ones where they just, you know, end in 2 seconds, but the more longer ones. It'll certainly be more helpful in those too. Like, I don't know. I just like that they give us this little boost to help us compete and actually have a chance of winning lanes. So I'm kind of happy about this, as some of you guys could tell. Personally, I have like overall positive thoughts on the nerf, but I have some skepticism because this isn't the exact buff he needed to climb back into the game, but also be in a healthy state. Now, it's a great way, and it's a different way than I was thinking to get him back into top lane. The buff actually helps all Darius players of all ranks, which is also another thing that, like, you know, the buff that I thought was better wouldn't exactly help some of the specific Darius players. The buff that I was thinking he should get is something to help him be tankier. So at least like a buff to his base HP, scaling HP, or maybe he gets a new passive where he gets armor and MR like during his Noxie Might, something like that. But I'm honestly not too angry about these changes. This is very clear that Riot is going for the, you know, if everyone's overpowered, nobody's overpowered kind of balancing idea by just giving everyone a ton of damage, right? And honestly, if Riot's going down this path, it's good that, you know, they're not leaving us in the dirt, huh? But yeah. It's a great change, but I'm just worried that this might make him a bit too oppressive in the elos where he's already good. So it's like high platinum and low diamond. He's like a solid mid to low A tier champion, and it might cause a few issues there. Well, more so low A tier champion, but you know, like it might make him a bit like high A tier. But this change is not gonna, you know, take him to S tier. Back on the tier list, right? Because you guys want to know about what this buff is gonna do to him and how it's gonna change his position on tier list, basically, right? Despite what pro guys, challenger guys, tier videos tell you, and despite what your Iron to Garen main friend likes to tell you, Darius wasn't actually like S+ god tier for a while, or even A tier for the matter of fact. Like the Strikebreaker nerfs really just capped him, because like in the old days, right, which is what everyone's remembering when they think about Darius, Darius was actually a 1v1 god, which he really hasn't been for the good part of Season 11, right? In Season 11, his power was shifted from like a bruiser that's really good in lane, who after he wins lane, he could take over the game and just stomp fights, to a bruiser with insane catch potential, who can just like pick people with Strikebreaker, old Strikebreaker, and turn those one kill into multi-kills with Flash Ghost, okay? The game's speeding up, everyone's doing way more damage, everyone's having way more dashes, and like because of how much faster the game is, old Darius is no longer tanky enough to do things like he used to in the previous seasons of League. Okay, he's just not tanky enough. You're like tissue paper, man. And with the addition of the Stride Dash, he kind of found this specific way to be one of the really strong top laners in the game. Until they removed it. And, like, admittedly, Darius does do more damage than he used to before. He's also way squishier. Like, he dies so fast, so you just cannot frontline with this guy. And you can't even start fights with this guy. It's like, you're supposed to kind of play him as this weird assassin-y bruiser, because you just die so fast unless you're like 10 kills ahead of your opponent, right? It's like, you cannot function alone as a Darius player. You're just not tanky enough. You need your team. And this basically explains his position at all, like, the tier lists, right? Because his position on tier list is different based on the ranks. I'm not going to go into every single rank range. So, because you need your team, Darius is the worst in lower elos, okay? So the lower you go, the worse he is. Because unlike Set or Garen or some other champion where you basically just stand next to someone until they die, Darius isn't quite so simple, right? His Q, his combos, timing his ultimate, right? It's just, he's not exactly the hardest champion in the game, but getting a grip of him and, you know, getting the fundamentals right on him is way harder than some of these other top laners. So a silver Darius is just gonna lose to the silver Set most of the time, because Set is a bit more simple, a bit more organic to play, whereas Darius has some really weird parts to his kit with the kiting and stuff. So yeah, and even if you do win lane as Darius, you get zero team play and nobody understands your abilities. They just keep taking your ultimates. So like, this is why starting from low platinum, he's low B tier, and if you go down low enough, he's basically a high C tier champion, which is really, really tragic. The part where he's meta is high platinum and low diamond. Here he gets to be a really good top laner because, one, people who are playing him are competent enough to get kills, and the players around here don't really know how to play into Darius, and three, your teammates start following up on your plays. So you're good at getting kills here, nobody's good at fighting you here, and your team helps you here. This is the elo where Darius is the best, and at this point, I would describe him as an A tier pick, like mid to low A tier pick right here, because he's just a very, very powerful pick at this rank. Now, in higher elos, he's a high B tier pick because though he's insanely strong into circuit twin compositions, he's basically useless into other compositions or into other matchups and stuff like that, right? There's a lot that can happen in champ select that just basically invalidates you as a Darius, like you as a champion. So because of how situational he is, he's basically like, you know, B tier, right? He's really good, can do a lot, but it's just he's one of the more situational champions in top lane, where you're supposed to have like him as a part of like a 3-champion champ pool, and okay, they have 3 melees, 2 of them are tanks, boom, Darius, baby. Like that kind of deal, you know? So yeah, like this change will be a huge buff to low elo, an okay buff in high plat and low diamond, and a pretty good buff in high elo. I don't think he'll breach S tier, which, you know, I already mentioned, but I think this buff will bring him from mid to high B tier to a mid to low A tier champion, which makes him pretty dang strong. Overall, like I said, I'm tiny bit like skeptical, but I'm also extremely happy and excited to see how he performs after these changes. And a bit of a Roku thing, so if you don't care, you might just want to leave, but I've not been very motivated to put time into these YouTube videos because League was just not very fun, and Darius was in such a bad state, so playing him felt more like a chore than like fun. But this buff might bring my enthusiasm back, and I might make more of these bangers, so yeah. Alright, this is the end. Go watch my other videos. Now!